I'm happy to have you, Giorgio, once again, because so
Yes.
far this has been a great conversation and really insightful. Even when you were talking about it just a minute ago, when you try to advise persons as a science-based lifter or a combination of not just science-based,
Yeah.
but just brute force training, I personally believe that I'm more leaning on the science-based lifter, to be honest, and a little bit of the aesthetic. Following the young guy era, maybe that's me, but I also like to think about it and the longevity circumstance. So, although I'm not lifting a heavy amount of weight, although I'm not lifting to the level of intensity, I also now, and this is just about 2 or 3 weeks ago, instead of me lifting legs twice a week, I
Mm-hmm.
decided that I should actually put in some cardio, run for 30 minutes. And my
Mm-hmm.
doctor actually advised it, say, hey, do you do any cardio? And I said, no, I don't do any cardio. What are you doing cardio if I lift in 5 days a week? What, what you talking about?
Right, right, right,
And
right,
he's
right,
like,
right.
well, Baron, I think you should definitely put in some cardio because, that'll be good for the heart. And I was like, okay, buddy. But now I feel like a better harmonious experience because I had a lower back pain. And this is where
Okay.
the functional strength is ideal for what I now see it as. I was not lifting. I actually repaired a dryer, by the way. Real handyman behavior. Disassembled the whole dryer to remove a rat
No
that
man.
was lodged up in the back of the dryer, put it back together. But after, and it was funny because you also mentioned that when we're in the gym, you push through certain pains and certain aches and what's not. You just say, man, that's just a little bump along the road. But
Mm-hmm.
I had a pain in my lower back. And before that, I did some deadlifts and I did like
Mm.
2 plates and I think 25 on each side, or
Okay.
just 2 plates and some more. And that was like a PR for me. And I was saying to
Okay.
myself,
Nice.
man, I think that's that deadlift. But then I spoke to one of my close friends, and then he was like, no, I saw the video. It didn't seem like it was that deadlift. And I said, yeah. And the pain came after I did the dry. He said, you was doing any core? And I was like, once again, I
No.
was like, no, what are you doing core for? Like, but I've been doing core for several years when I was in high school. Like, what are you doing that for? He said, well, I mean, it sounded like you had a stability issue. And
Yeah,
when I
yeah,
did some research, it was two things that would have been a pain. Well, three things. Posture was one. The QL muscle, my QL muscle, because I was leaning over to the left and the right,
yeah,
trying to
yeah,
reach in
yeah,
different
yeah,
places
yeah.
in the dryer. And then my core was
Yes.
just not stabilized. And so I wouldn't sit upright, or I would kind of like not be braced properly. So all that combined, I'm like, oh, I have to go through this humbling experience again. Here we go,
Mm-hmm.
where someone's right and I'm wrong. It's and I could laugh about it now because 5 years ago, you couldn't tell me I was wrong. So
Yeah,
once again, like,
yeah.
who you is? Come on, man. You telling me in my body what I feel it. Who you is? I could tell the whole training that, and I wouldn't say it to them, but I laugh it off. I'd be like, yeah, this man, I 6'2", this
Yeah,
person
yeah.
5'9". He don't know what he talking about. He heavy, I lightweight. I gone to this school. It was so stupid. Like I could think about it now. I'm like, oh, I was really dumb. But I'm also happy now because even recently when I was doing my bench, my one of my squatties, he saw that when I was doing bench, my wrist would be like this to pump, and he's like, "Wait, Pratt, you gotta, use your knuckle and pump
Stock
up,
your ribs. Yeah,
stack the
yeah.
ribs." And he said, "Knuckles," he said, "Knuckles up." So I now had to lower the weight and get back to that foundational and similar with my squats, 6'2", and my legs are really long. Doing squats with my legs shoulder width apart, I can't get
That's
as
like that's
low.
that's to be horrible.
It is hard. Deadlifts, it is not fun. Like doing straight up, I can do it and I have done it, but it's such a grueling task. And me being a fighter, high prone to injury, but I'm like, man, the rest the reward. But it took those same persons that advised me, hey, I wouldn't suggest you do that. Hey, you're doing that wrong. And I'm like, you know what I'm saying? But I am taking heed to wise counsel.
I gotta interject on that one right there.
Sure.
There may be times where you actually right though, because all right, let me look at it this way. We have a particular person who's in the gym. You know this person. This person corrects everybody
Of
who
course.
works out
Yeah.
in the morning.
Yeah,
Right.
man.
So in most, well, all cases, let me say that in all cases, when
Hmm.
he come to my particular clients and try to correct them, my first question I ask him is, does he know why you're doing it that way? No. So why take the advice in some cases? Why take the advice?
Because
I could
there's a
have
method
you
to the
do it.
madness.
Right. I could have you doing good mornings, for example. Someone may mistake that for squats. They say, "Oh, you squatting back," but it's not
No,
squats.
but you ain't doing
You
squats. I
know,
doing good mornings. I had a
right?
similar circumstance. But continue.
When you know why, and this when you exclude certain corrections. If you know
Hmm.
why you're doing it that particular way, then you don't succumb to such statements. And that's my case in most things
Okay.
because it's not a cookie cutter type thing, right?
One size doesn't fit all.
Right. It may want to bench with my arms a particular width. That doesn't mean that I'm benching wrong. Or I may want to go in more narrow. More
Hmm.
narrow may target my
My
triceps more.
triceps,
A
right?
bit wider may tricep my
Your
target
pecs,
the outer pecs and things of that. So I may want to do that. You know what I mean? It's
right?
even with farmers walk, maybe I may want to hold a dumbbell heavier than the other one. That's a
To
core
balance
routine.
out the
So
QL muscle, like I spoke about it. I've done it
exactly
before.
right. Now, when you mentioned the thing about the back issue, I had a similar issue. You notice those windows inside that gym, and Mark carried those windows up there ourselves. Every
Wow,
single window inside that place, we carried them ourselves.
that is ridiculous.
One one day, maybe for 2 hours, of just moving themselves.
Just pure deadlifts at that point because you're picking them up off the
Just
ground.
just slow and grit. Yeah, just grit and grind. That's it. Up those stairs. Up those
Up the
stairs. Like
stairs.
straight up. Yeah.
Wow.
So what is crazy is in the midst of all the deadlifting that I've done was the windows that really threw at my back. So I remember my lumbar was inflamed, and one day I
Same.
decided to do some squats. Kind of so was kind of tight. Mine the squats were small. It was lightweight,
And you was
and
like,
my
something ain't
back was
right.
messed up for months because of that. Yeah. So I had a similar experience to what you had. The problem ain't the weight, you know. It's the fact that your body isn't used to moving
To
that
move in a
particular thing.
certain way, and that's functional
That's what
moving
it
strength.
is. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Functional strength is that help bulletproof your core and your back. I must say that
Hmm.
helps by far.
It does,
Yeah.
big time. I
Mm-hmm.
personally experienced that, and since then I started to do like trunk, like putting weights, and then try different exercises to
I
work
got
my
you.
QL and get my
Yeah.
core
Stabilizers and all the
stabilized,
different
and then
stuff.
I
Yeah.
run to keep things physically active and get the blood flowing. And it also emphasizes the purpose of not not strength, but stretching and
Yeah.
warming down and cooling off for that reason, because there's so many things that can go wrong. And if you're on a regular
Mm-hmm.
day-to-day handyman, like handymen are crazy strong. Like I wouldn't
Yes.
want to
Some
play with
serious
like a
functional
farmer.
strength. Yeah.
Like there's a reason why they call farmer walks a thing, because farmers are they're so
Yeah.
strong. Carpenters, they're
Construction
strong.
workers.
Steel welders, blue collar men are dangerously strong. They come in the
Mhm.
gym and they lift weights casually in boots with the sweat and whatever grueling temperature and heat. They are ridiculous. A person
Yes,
like
sir.
me, I know who I am. I may be slim and I'm tall and I can lift a certain weight, but I'm not a blue collar person. I know that's not my fit. And I'm not gonna go toe to toe with my chest up trying to be a bigger man about things. So that's why I don't lift that way. I kind of lift because I'm in my own environment, my own regime. And when you mention talking about, hey, there's a method to the madness, it brings me to a statement that I had to realize as a person that's an aspiring leader as well. Other persons aren't going to know your purpose, and it's not their job to know your purpose. It's your job to know your purpose, and it's your job
Mhm.
to produce that purpose so they'll see it for themselves through action. If
Yes.
you're lifting a certain way and you're walking a certain way and you're doing things with a purpose, it's different if you go in the gym just trying out. But if you have a purpose, and this is why it's important to have a purpose, if you have a purpose
Yes.
and a reason why you're in there and why you're doing a certain thing, they don't know that. That's not what they're seeing. They're just seeing whatever it is you're doing. I've been in a circumstance where I was just, what was I doing? I was doing heavy barbell rows. And when I was setting up for it, people were looking at me like, why does tall do it doing that for deadlifts? And I didn't respond. I knew what I was doing. I did it. I did my 3
Mhm.
reps and I put it up, and someone was like, oh, that didn't make any sense, but it made sense to me. So
3 reps of barbell row is what you said?
yeah, for heavy.
Okay, okay.
It was just
Yeah,
heavy barbell
but
rows.
it
I
has its
wasn't
place though.
it has its place. I wasn't trying to like do 12 reps, 8, 12 reps. No, I was just getting comfortable, especially after my core. I was
Yes.
kind of seeing where I was at in terms of, okay, how am I stabilizing? How am I doing these things? You know what I'm saying? Being aware and seeing where I'm at. So for a person that was walking or like looking or just watching it, like, oh, what you doing? Like, why you doing it like that? I
He's
didn't
ego
answer.
lifting. He's doing. But my thing is,
Yeah.
what you're doing is still science based, and we call that overload. How else would your body be able to withstand more weight if you don't
If
feel
you
the
don't
weight?
push it to the
It
limit.
that's
So
and uh-huh.
mind you, of course, I didn't, and this is where I had to put my ego aside. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do it, and I'm not a person that'll like fumble up my form to lift weights. I'm gonna lift it and try to keep as best form and go less reps than break form. Of course, there's a place in the time for you to kind of break form and push through when you're trying to do that real hypertrophy training. But in that
Hmm.
case and circumstance, I really just was trying to make sure my QL muscle, my lumbar muscles and my core and
I
everything
got you.
working the way it. So
I got you.
it's so important to have a method to the madness, even like you said, if you know why you're doing something, you don't have to worry about the background noise. They're background characters in your life and your existence and in your purpose. For me as an individual, persons may hear that I'm back in school and I'm not doing 5 or 6 classes. I may take 1 or 2 classes every other semester. And they're like, wow, it'll take you forever to graduate. And I'd look at them and I'd
Yeah,
say,
but you finished.
no, but not only that, I'm 24. I just turned 24. And what's a class every semester over a decade versus not taking a class at all? What's
That's
two
true.
classes over 5 years instead of not trying at all? Like,
That's
I
true.
have a purpose for it. It may not be a purpose for you in the moment, but 5 years, 10 years down the line, when I'm at a certain level or I'm in a certain position, or if I'm in a certain headspace or in a place in life, in a different place, they're going to ask or they're going to say, how did you get there? Or what you been doing? Even, and this is where I'm going to tell you something. There's there's a book called The Psychology of Money, and the book very
Right.
heavily speaks about compounding. In fitness, there's also the idea of compounding, where over time you gradually put 5 pounds adding on over time to the weight, and you're going to improve. In a similar way with finance, if you're investing your money and you put that same amount and you continuously buy, it's going to increase over time. And 10% of $100 is $10, right?
Hmm.
But 10% of $100,000 is $10,000. The
Yes, it
percentages
does.
didn't change. The
Right. Right.
percentages didn't change. $1 million. If someone told me they would give me 5% of $1 million, I would take it. If someone told me 100,000, I'd
Most
take it.
definitely.
But because they have 5%, they have 2%, they have 10%, they have
That's too
20%.
little. Yeah.
That's too little, but they don't understand the value of compounding over time. If I tell someone I put in 5 pounds of weight added on those little small plates on the bar for bench press or squats, they're like, oh, that ain't nothing. But over time, you're going to feel that because then it's going to transition over to the 5. And then once you put the 2.5 plus the 5, then you're gonna eventually going to get to the 10. And then a little
Hmm.
before now, you're on a plate additional. I think even a similar experience spiritually, compounding has its purpose. If you pray
Yes.
every day and you read your scriptures every day and you have that same level of discipline, you are going to see changes and you are going to be more wise. You are going to be revealed the truth. And I myself experienced it because I've realized, well, when I wouldn't be in the gym, I would be a little bit more irritable. And when I wouldn't be reading in the scriptures, I'd be a bit more irritable or I'd be less
Yes.
understanding. And the compounding really does have its place. So, because I'm speaking about compounding, I'm going to ask you, and I probably already asked you this actually when I said, how has the consistency benefited you in your life? But for compounding, was that something that really pushed you in your powerlifting journey? How valuable is that in your powerlifting
In
experience?
regards of compounding, how you explain compounding reminds me of it should be the same, right? Progressive overload per
Yes.
se. That was the major thing. That's literally the major thing is progressive overload. And even
Hmm.
to a point where I have my clients move based on progressive overload with their main lifts, just like powerlifting. So
Right.
powerlifting kind of influence how I train people, but then I still have it to be versatile at the same time,
Because
right?
everybody's
So for
different. You're
me,
aware.
right. So personally for me, based on how I feeling within that week, it
Okay.
would either be a 5 pound jump a 10-pound jump, or depending on the lift.
Okay.
So, for example, if it's bench, of course, it's a bit more sensitive. So that would more than likely be a 5-pound lift. I mean,
Right.
5-pound increase on a weekly aspect. Squat maybe 20, 10 to 20. Lift maybe
Yeah.
10 to 20 based on how the previous week felt.
Right.
One of the persons I really studied in regards to powerlifting, because someone you have to be a student of the game when it comes to lifting.
You have to
A fella
constantly
called
practice and learn and improve from the past experiences and as time progresses.
Right, right. The crazy part is, a lot of people look at um influence. Like I think the influencer got me into it, got me into
Okay.
powerlifting. But when I now lean on, it was an old school fella named Ed Cohen. Ed Cohen
Okay.
he is a multi-time powerlifting champ.
Wow.
One of the things that he mentioned is that he never failed to lift. And one of the reasons he never failed to lift is because he was humble enough to be able to call truthful to himself to actually choose his numbers correctly. So even with my,
Wow.
my clientele, I have couple male clientele who was pretty, how could I put it?
And confident? They're not sure?
Overzealous. Let's say overzealous.
Okay.
Overzealous towards getting stronger, you know.
Mm.
So while I'm saying, hey, we got, let's say 135 for 3 sets, 8 bench. Man, I could do my 135 light. He said we're doing it for 8 reps for three
There's a method
sets.
to them. That ain't.
So I go back to what I tell you about the little boy.
Mhm.
So now I say, okay, well, you want to add extra, what, 10 pounds?
And you know
No
just what
problem. I
but
know what's going to happen.
you have to lift it through this whole 3
So
sets.
right. So now there's a physical and spiritual thing. Sometimes God has allowed us to walk down. Okay, I've been warning you for
He
a
allow us to
long
pick our
time. Don't go that
poison.
way. Yeah. So I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna watch you buck your toe, and then I'm going to have the band-aid right here for you after you buck your toe. So that happened just yesterday, to be honest. I was like, bro, let's do this X amount of weight. Man, I feel easy, sure. I said, no. I said,
You
okay.
questioning the coach?
Yeah. All right, let's go. I said, give me 8 for that. 5. He failed at 5. I say, I got 3 more for you. He did 2 and couldn't do the last one. And I look at him with a wicked smile. I was like, your coach know what he doing, you know?
You paid me for a reason, buddy.
Right. So I said, get this. This is what we're gonna do. We're gonna go back to the
To the weight that I
135.
chose. Yeah.
He barely lifted the 8 rep. I said, how much reps was that? 8. And I throw my hands up. I say, see, tell you,
I've been doing this,
listen,
man.
man, listen.
For-
Yeah, come on. Come
See,
on. I have to do the same thing. You can imagine me saying, oh, I feeling good. And mind you, and you know the caliber weighs
going based on how
295,
you
feel good
feel.
on the bench. I gonna freak out and add an extra 10 pounds on that. Come on, man. I'm
You
not gonna
going
get the same
crazy?
amount of reps. Come on, man. So I trying to train your mind even to now. You gotta respect all
Understand.
weight.
Every
Yeah.
weight is serious. You have to
Yeah.
pay respect to whatever it is. I think even from my experience lifting weights, uh, me personally, especially with bench, I could tell you bench is by far the scariest thing that I do lift. And I do not
Mm-hmm.
lift heavy for bench. I would do dumbbell heavy, but I do not lift as heavy as I possibly can for bench because the risk to reward is just not something that I'm willing to take on. And coming from a person that would rather lift deadlifts and squats heavy compared to bench heavy,
Bench.
and it's more risky on my back, and my bench is by
Yeah,
far
yeah,
one of the
yeah.
scariest things. I don't care if anybody's squatting me. I am not pushing to the limit. My body ain't lifting off that bench. I ain't ego lifting jack squat. Because
No.
if that person don't save my life, I am done.
So I like to have fun with that portion there. When I
Mhm.
see a person from afar struggling with a weight, I mean, I know it's light, struggling with a weight. They didn't ask for any form of sport or anything like that, but they're there. And it's just inch by inch going up. And then when it rests on their chest, I just like to stand for a bit and let them feel the pressure, because my thing is,
You should have known.
you should have known. Now I have to save you. I have to use my own strength to assist you
Man, you could
getting
have
this off
asked
your
from the
chest.
get-go.
Come on, man. Come on.
You
Why even
drive.
risk it?
You drive an interesting point, and this is where we're going to turn this to something spiritual. What
Yes.
knows for sure we can and cannot do? but he allows us, he gives us, I think even scriptures mention this, where he gives us into our desires and our temptation, where you have to submit
Romans 1.
yourself. You have to submit, you have to subject yourself back to him. You have to recommit yourself
Mm-hmm.
willingly, because he
Mm-hmm.
ain't doing it by force. He ain't going to force
Mm-hmm.
anybody. You have free will from the book of Genesis. Adam and Eve had free
Mm-hmm.
will and choice. So you have to choose, you chose that path, and you have to choose to humble yourself and turn back and say, you know what? I was wrong, God. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Can you help me? So in a
Yeah.
similar way, I could imagine, and I've seen it even, I'm not a coach, but I would advise persons on, relationships, even friendships and situations as such. Certain people, they don't change as much as you would think, but you can see certain patterns and certain trends. And when I tell them, hey, that person may just do this, that, and the next, they're like, no, you ain't gonna go down according to that. Or if they have a plan, and I'm like, hey, did you think
Okay.
about this plan, that plan? I said, it was so serious. We had a group talk with with a group of my boys. And when I was telling one of them, I said, this is going to go down just like this or the next. And he said, no, man, it ain't
Mm-hmm.
going to go like that. And then everybody started running like, no, but we ain't listening. I said, shh. Literally, I just told them, everybody just shh.
Leave it alone.
Let
Leave it alone.
this happen. This is the unskippable cutscene. This is where you are going
Mm-hmm.
to learn from trial and error. The best teachers known to humankind.
Mm-hmm.
And it happens, and it is it is very reliable, it is very useful, and it's effective. And that's why I
To
go in
those
the
who are
gym,
wise.
to
Yeah.
those who are wise. And this is where people misunderstand wisdom and intelligence, or, book
Yeah.
smart versus competence. You can know it all, but because you don't practice it all, you're not wise. You just know it all. You're an arrogant,
You- Yeah.
thinking mother lover. But if you know better and you do better, then you are actually wise. You are someone that is more than aware. You are trustworthy and you live it. You could say by trial and error, hey, buddy, don't do that. Don't say certain things. Don't lift that weight. And I think this is why me as a person, it sets me apart, because I'm willing to go to trial by fire, tooth and nail. If I get shot in the leg, I'm going to crawl and still try and reach to get where it is I'm trying to go. If you knock me down, I may die, but if I'm not dead, I'm still gonna try and crawl. So for persons that are not like that, I don't know how I could be around them, because they ain't gonna have that same fighting
It's
experience.
frustrating.
It is. Can you
It's
imagine?
frustrating.
So let me ask you, with a person like me, I am wise enough to take heed, but would you find a person like me, based off what you see me in the gym lifting and how I lift, would you find a person like me hard to train? Because I'm sure there's some persons that are hard to train.
Not at all, because for one, you on a verge of the science-based training. So coming from a trainer like me who is science-based, we
Okay.
speak the same language. You know
Mm,
what I mean? And so if I tell you don't do something, or we could do it this way, I don't always just I don't ever say that, hey, we're not doing that, or this won't work. I will literally give you full-on explanation on why this won't work at this appointed time,
right.
or why I want for you to do this at this appointed time. I will literally give you that. I won't
Hmm.
have you guessing, or because I said so type thing. No, it's never that.
Okay.
Now, for those who know my training style, I could possibly move like that, because they know me and they know my training style. Say, well, he may have said that for a particular reason, why we won't tackle that today, or
Right.
why we switching it up today, or
There's an
whatever.
intention
So
to it. Right.
it's always intentional. I believe you should be intentional as a trainer. You should always have it. Don't just pick exercises and
Off of
make it
how you
look good.
feel.
No.
Yeah.
Right, right. You have a lot of trainers now too, who just go onto social media and just see different exercises and go with it. I don't know if you ever noticed the ladies doing the hip abduction. They got their
Yeah.
hands spread to the. So
Yeah.
one of my clients tried it one time, and they stand off afar and they look at her. They say, "You think that makes sense?" She said, "Well, I see so and so do it, and
You
I believe
minding
it's
them?
work and stuff." So I said, "Okay, do it now, and now let's go back to how we was doing it before. Which one you felt more?" God, I said, "Bingo." So why would you do that?
Minding your
Please tell me
friends,
the
minding
science
other
of this.
people. Yeah, because it ain't make no
Yeah,
sense. There's no logic behind
it
it, right?
it, it makes no sense. No,
Mm-mm-mm.
and I look at a lot of people in the gym, at least on at the base, and I feel proud of a lot of. It made me feel proud a lot, because one or two different advice that I've given, and
Right.
they accepted and see them now, blowing up with their lifts and things of that sort. I
Right.
look at as simple as you have like Bello with his bench press. I see
Mhm.
Bello hit I think 335 the other day. Bello what 165. And that's something you don't normally see something like that. But
No.
I feel good about it because in the midst of my guidance with one or two things.
With the
And what I love is
mentorship
that
along the way.
he's receptive as
Mhm.
experienced as he is.
He's
He's
receptive.
humble enough to receive certain information or whatnot. Hey, try it this way. Try adding this into the regimen. Try doing this, that, and the next. And I
Mhm.
guarantee the plateau, you could break the plateau. So when you see the seeds you sown and you see that the fruit develop from it, it's beautiful, really,
Right.
truly. So that's I truly believe that you could take on the training because I could we mentioned patterns earlier. I see the
Right.
patterns of mindset basically, you
Okay.
know.
Okay, so with me speaking about that mindset, right?
Hmm.
It leads me to now ask another question. I'm happy that these questions are flowing in such a way. It's really moving really well. My question is,
Yeah.
what do most men misunderstand about mental health and the fitness community today?
With mental health, it's crazy. In that area, it starts now. So it started before they even became men, because how the country look at mental health entirely. We don't take mental health serious at all.
At all.
It
Right.
started off with the man being a boy, whereas they tell hey big boys don't cry. He started off from saying as simple as that, boys don't.
Boys don't cry is a serious thing to say to a young man. Seriously.
Right. And even to a point where they say, well, boys don't talk about their feelings, or boys don't, or if a boy do talk about his feeling, he's sassy, or he girly, or
Or something
he
wrong with
off
him.
and some yeah, something wrong with him, and it started from there. It started like going back to the mentorship thing. That's how they were groomed. That's how
Right.
we were groomed. That's how we were groomed. You have some of
Honestly.
our households where men grew up or boys grew up not hearing that, that I love you from certain parents and things of
Right.
that sort. You have a lot of households where no men are no are present entirely, so they don't really have an example on how they should be.
Right.
And that reflect a lot today in regards of mental health, because most of murders and things of that sort, what's going on is a lot of men don't know how to handle their emotions.
The self-control
They
is just
don't.
not there.
No self-control and no form of conflict resolution, because they never really learn how to channel their emotions. Feel them. It's so crazy. I could say that I've been an example of it,
Okay.
not in an extreme way, but
Okay.
I would guarantee this. One, the most humbling thing you could experience learning these set of stuff is in a relationship. Relationship brings these things out.
But that's the
You,
facts. Relationships
yeah,
brings out, it's a mirror for who you are as a person and
yeah,
your shortcomings. The good, bad, and the
yeah.
ugly gonna come out. Jeez,
I'm
continue.
telling you,
Sorry.
I'm telling you. And in most cases, I can remember my own self denying certain things. You would be
Wow.
surprised how much men move based on trauma. They don't even know they have the
It's
trauma.
true. They don't even
I'm telling
recognize
you,
it. It's like an
they
alarm
don't
that's going off
recognize
and
it.
they completely are tone deaf to the alarm. You're
Right.
right.
I can remember one time where it's labeled, hey, I believe one of my biggest problems with you is that you're not as affectionate of you as you should be. And I remember at the very beginning, I started to not justify it. No, I started to deny it.
And avoid
And then,
accountability.
right. And I see, and this is why when it comes to change, Jesus is truly, truly
Very
needed,
much the way.
because I was convicted like right after that. And he had to roll the cameras back on how I grew up.
Okay.
So I was able to see the root of it.
Okay.
And I say, you know what? You're right. My apologies. And I see the root of it. And the root of it is I grew up not hearing much I love yous. I
Mm,
grew up not experiencing much hugs
right.
and things of that sort. So affection, how could I learn something that wasn't there? It wasn't there.
A divine connection have to put it on you. Otherwise, you wouldn't get it.
Yeah,
It's when you
right.
say that, it's that you continue, but a thing that people don't realize, even to a physical, biological circumstance. Of course, you
Right.
said you studied biology. Matter is neither created nor destroyed, right? In a similar
No.
circumstance, your mind cannot create things it hasn't already seen or experienced. Your brain is just one big
Mm-hmm.
sponge from birth until death, and whatever faces, whatever experiences, whatever stimulates the five senses, your brain is very capable and will store those things. So when people speak about dreams that don't really line up with what's going on and things that they've never seen before, that's really God's divine presence, and that's his visions
Mm-hmm.
putting on to them. And persons really ignore those dreams or those visions because they think it's their own thoughts or it's their own ideas, or they kind of
Yeah.
fizzling out because they haven't gone through the first step of who they are as an individual, as a man. He
Mm-hmm.
doesn't know who he is. So I personally would have been through that. And I came to so much realizations as a man, a young man at that. Well, of course, I've heard the same thing. You can't cry. You shouldn't be crying. Or
Mm-hmm.
you talk too much. Or you
Talk. Yeah. That
doing too
that right
much.
there. You talk too
I've
much.
heard it
Yeah.
before, and I've found myself many times kind of stop talking. I tell people I feel like
Shut in.
I feel like I running on a bit too much, so I just get chill out. And I've been in a relationship before where she's like, "No, don't do that. Like you enjoying the conversation." You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? So I've been there, and also to the dark side, I've been there where some persons with ill intentions would kind of push certain things or their insecurities and their shortcomings onto me. And it took me having to really find out who I am as an individual and come down to
Mm-hmm.
reality. Otherwise, I would have still been with that voice in the back of my mind, the negative things that they
Maybe
said
you
to
are
me.
this way. Yeah.
Maybe I
Yeah.
am this
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
Maybe I am terrible. Maybe
Yeah.
I am
Yeah.
less than. Maybe I ain't as man as I thought I was. And it's a
Mm-hmm.
woman telling me, and as crazy as this may sound to some people, I believe there's a difference between a man and a woman, but I also do believe that it's not a place for a man to tell a woman how to be a woman, and it's not a place for a woman to tell a man how to be a man. A man should check a
I
man.
respect that.
A man should
I
check a
respect that.
man. A
Yeah.
woman should check a woman.
Yeah.
A woman, I'm not going to tell a woman how to be a woman. I'm not going to tell a woman how to be feminine. I'm going to leave them alone. I've met some women that are masculine. I've met some men that are
Mm-hmm.
feminine. But a man that is feminine, I'm more inclined to check him and say, "Hey, buddy, I can be real with you. I don't think you should be carrying on like that." Because I'm a man. I experienced that. I lived that type of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I'm saying? Now, in societies today, and of course, if you know the research, there's a lot of research about single parent families, and more often than not, it's
Mm-hmm.
single mothers growing up kids and young men being emasculated, even on the spiritual level. A
Yeah.
man should discipline a man. A man is usually a disciplinarian at that, right? But when
Mm-hmm.
a woman becomes a disciplinarian to a young man, the damage it does to a young man is so, I want to say it's irreversible, but nothing is irreversible because of God or because
You're right.
Jesus
Right. I
exists,
got you.
but it is near irreversible. And today we have so many young men that are in that state because they see their mothers that they're so strong and they're so capable and they're doing so much, but they don't look at themselves in the mirror and say, wow, if she capable of doing that, imagine what I can do as a man. All this testosterone I got, surgeon, all this strength, all this capability. And if my mommy could do that and push through, yes, she was able to. But how's she handling that? Is she kind? Is she feminine? Is she soft? Is she gentle? I don't want my mommy being like that. I should really take on this mask. You know what I'm saying? Hearing that, I've heard that. Oh, you talk too much. My report cards would literally say constantly, talks too much, talks too much. And more often than not, me talking too much was me advising someone, explaining something that I
I
found
got
really
you.
interesting,
I
or
got you.
rather,
Yeah.
it would be me defending myself on something where someone accused me of. Enough so, I have a friend of mine, and we're still friends from high school time. He said many times in that specific class, I would literally get put to the class by the teacher's desk, simply because I was defending myself when someone would provoke me to anger. Every time they'd come in the class, provoke me to anger, I respond, I get pulled to the back of the class by the teacher's desk. And I'm like, what the hell? You can imagine the frustration that a young man would have where he trying to defend himself and he's basically being taught subconsciously, don't even try. So imagine coming home, certain kids that come home, they have their mother or their single parent and they stress so, and they powerless. They at school, they
Yeah.
powerless. So they become an adult and they powerless. They don't have the drive to push.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have the drive to be better. They don't have the drive to be in the gym as much, or they find it in the gym or through the gym through a natural way.
Yes.
So it just came to want to ask you this question. And it's really going to be on an individual and on a personal level. How do you handle the internal battles when no one sees them? Because obviously, you know, there's internal battles that everyone has, but
Most definitely.
being a man that is in a era or a time where there's less masculine men or men that are good judge of character or person's role models, where there's a lack of role models and men that you would want to be like, how do you battle with those internal fights?
Be honest with you, I believe as long as we live, it'd be a challenge. I don't care how well experienced we are in experiencing trials and tribulations. God just know how to bring it to you where you have to go on your knees, right?
Right.
I usually tell people it's even in church, like I personally still learning on how to lean fully on him in the midst of those times. There are those
Right.
personal battles. In most cases, he normally reminds me of certain scriptures or certain people in the Bible.
Okay.
A lot of people use Job. I try not to look at Job. I understand
Why?
his story, but it's very brutal. I won't lie. I won't lie, right? If I do use it, let me say this. If I
Okay.
use him as an example to uplift me, I would say this. God randomly mentioned Job to Satan
Okay.
for Satan to tempt him.
Hmm.
I said maybe, just maybe I could be experiencing one of those experiences. Have you met my servant? He's righteous.
He's a good guy, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, he's a good guy. And I would look at it in that way. I would look at it in the way I remember. See, it's crazy because a lot of times I have to preach.
Okay.
There was a particular set where this one time and this was a low time. I won't
Okay.
lie. Well, I had an accident. I had an accident driving to work. Yeah,
Oh.
random dog just was walking on the road in the dark, and the cow pen did not see that dog
Hmm.
and it was walking towards my lane. Yeah, this was weird. Literally by the graveyard. Literally by the graveyard. I'm telling you. That was one instance. I just fixed the vehicle. I think right after that, end up in a three-car collision. I think that was like maybe like $1,500 I spent within the
Wow.
space of like a week or two right after pay. And I'm here driving my fiance's car. While she's sleeping on the side of me, because now
Hmm.
this a situation now, like you mentioned, fighting,
Yeah, you
battling
internal
within,
battles.
but yeah, you by yourself at this
You ain't
point,
really stable.
and I hear talking to God, and my eyes like not that I ain't crying, but they glossy,
You can
like
feel it
like
coming.
I need you, I really need you. I know I'm not really supposed to question you, but
But
I really,
some gotta
really,
shake.
really need you. Something got to give right now. I don't know what it is you're doing at this moment, but I need to know. I need to know that the end is
Hmm.
near.
Hmm.
And the story he gave me in the midst of that was when Peter walked on water.
Okay.
And in the midst of Peter walking on water to Jesus, when he looked left or right and see how raging the waters are and the winds are, he started to sink.
Focus.
And that brought calmness to me because
Hmm.
that really got to remind me that I need to see Jesus in the situation because in most cases we just look at the negativity.
Right.
But in the midst of the negativity, Jesus was right there in the front of Peter.
Hmm.
So that means in the midst of the things that I go through, I need to know that God is literally right there. And
Hmm.
if he's right there, he have purpose on why I going through this.
There's a method to the
So I just need it.
madness.
It's a method to the madness, and I just hang on. So and if that's one way to look at it, another way I may look for a sermon relating
Okay.
to the situation, and I would let that minister to me, or I may being a musician again. I may go listen to music, certain gospel songs, or
Just
read
keep you
scripture,
abreast.
and just yeah. Because one thing I learned and I still getting used to it, is that I look at Moses when he had a situation when those Israelites continuously threatened his life. The
Hmm.
first thing Moses did was go on his knees and cry to God. I found myself being in so much situations where the moment I have an issue, I go to people and I just say, "Oh well,
Worst thing
this is like
ever.
going through," and that's like my right, exactly. You vent to this person, that person, and
They make you
you go
feel
there in
better.
innocence. Yeah, that destroy you sometimes because you don't know
Yeah.
who you're speaking to.
And you
You
don't know
know?
what things and spirits attached to them who can go carry you back in
Right.
the worst places or who don't have the best
Right.
intentions or interests at heart. You name it,
Look
like
at
too
Job
much
friends.
variables. Yeah, Joe Vance
Job
was
friends
his
question his
wife,
righteousness.
his
And
wife
his
and
wife,
all.
yeah, she tell him to curse God and die, and his friends was like, truly, no righteous man would ever go through something like this. So you had to do something. So now you got the man questioning what he questioning his
Oh
own walk. So like
man.
you have like, that's where I'm at this point. It took me years. I won't lie to you. It took me years to be able to learn how to really handle internal battles. It took me
Okay.
years because in the midst of all of that was a lot of betrayal and things of that sort. And sometimes it could even be through the innocence of that person, you know. They could be just lack knowledge. And
Yes.
it just affect you in a horrible way.
It's mindless in a sense, and they just innocently send you straight up the creek.
Yeah. Yeah. Really and truly. You tell that person, then they go on vent to someone about that, and then
All of a sudden
horrible.
now you jam up and then you just saying, man, why you tell them? But in the same time, you're like, I can't be
Yeah.
mad at you because you ain't know no better. So I can't be mad at nobody. And you don't want to be mad at yourself. And you trying to be
Yeah.
mad at yourself, but you can't because you're like, man, I didn't know better, but I ain't do better. But like, so
Exactly.
you at that point, you have no other option but to go to God and say, man, God, you know what I mean? Like,
That's the
forgive
first
me. I
route.
sorry. Let me get these
Hmm.
things together. Let me handle my business. I've been in a similar circumstance because before my treatment, I'm also involved in my church and I was doing the slides. But that was the day before. That was the day before I was going away to start my chemotherapy. And instead of me going
Right.
upstairs to go do that, because I wasn't in the right mental space, I sat down at the bottom, in the back with my hoodie on, staying to myself. And one of the ladies was like, hey, would you, like, the service got to go on. And I went up there reluctantly. And then I was there pressing it. And where my mind was elsewhere, I wasn't really focusing. People were looking. I think I actually had a panic attack. Or better yet, my ears started ringing and I was like
Hmm.
so overwhelmed because I'm like, what the hell? And I was calling the doctor in the States, by the way. You can't even call them from locally on a Sunday. So I'm calling a
I'm just
number
trying to call
and I
some.
trying to call them and I'm like, oh my gosh, what's happening? And my Grammy, she come out and she's like, what's happening? She shell shocked because they've never seen me like this before. They always see me as a controlled person or reserved and what's not. Here I
Yeah.
am, like
Yeah.
crashing out and like I'm breathing, I'm panicking, having a panic attack outside the church. And she's just there silent watching. She's like, you okay? Like, what you need me to do? And in that moment, I thought about it and I said, the devil have to be doing something to me to get me out this service. I don't know what's going
Yes.
on. I don't know why he doing it, but just to prove to me that I ain't gonna let this stop. I ain't letting it stop no show. I breathe. I wipe up them
For sure.
tears, carry me up right back upstairs to that projector, and I handle that business. And that throughout
Yeah.
my whole journey, that was the start of me persevering despite how I feel and not
Hmm.
letting doubt or not letting my mental get the better of me. Training, what I did, because that was right after training, by the way. Training was not in the same existence as it was mentally for me when I was doing my chemo. It was like training times 10 because everything was
Wow.
mental. Training mental wasn't as much because I was already in ranges. I already had a militant, disciplined mentality and lifestyle. But now it is to really take self control to a whole other magnitude and level, and the resilience and the zeal it took to put me here today. It started from before the treatment even started. And training couldn't prepare me for it. Life couldn't prepare me for it. Life had to prepare me in the moment through trial and
Yeah.
error.
Most definitely. Most definitely.
So
Most definitely.
the internal battles, and I agree, I think persons tend to want to finish in life without actually really just waiting until death to get down to the life and really finishing what they're doing. They're so focused on completing life without actually living life. And one of the things about life is you're going to suffer. Suffering builds
Yeah.
character. Suffering
Hmm.
allows you, the negatives allow you to embrace the positive. Have you ever seen the yin and yang, the peace sign? There's a reason why
Yep. I've seen
there's a
that.
majority of white and there's majority left, but on both sides there's a little bit of the other color. There's no
The
darkness
balance.
without
Yeah.
light. There's no light without
Hmm.
darkness. There's the cloud
Hmm.
always has a silver lining because it has to pop it out from the
Hmm.
rest of the background. So with that mentality and that belief, and that was in the back of my mind, that some persons may even say that helped me to push through cancer and push through the chemo, watching my body weight drop, watching my hair fall out, staying strong for my family because they're watching this thing happen to their eldest son and grandson. They're watching this to their Marine who just joined the Defense Force and now going through one of the hardest things that may happen in his life. So I had to battle and toil with my own thoughts, and I had nihilistic thoughts. I was watching YouTube for hours and I'm saying, why the hell am I watching videos about mortgage and thing? I might not even live to buy a mortgage. I might not even live to buy the tech, the newest iPhone with up and coming. Why even care? But I still was pushing through and I still went to the chemotherapy and I still went to the doctor visits and people asking me questions and talking to me. And I'm in my mind, I'm like, why you asking me stupid questions? Why you asking me how I feel? You can't change how you feel. You can imagine that mental space to be in when you're trying to
You
like
had a lot
also
of negativity you had to fight off.
but like also trying to stay connected to God and like not act. Of course, God says come to Him, but He don't want you to be, questioning Him or like But boy, it was hard. It was extremely hard, suffering and toiling and going through the mental battles. But I think before we do wrap up this, we have spent quite some time. I think we spent almost an hour and a half. But my question to you before we wrap up is, what would you tell the younger version of you? What would you tell the younger version of you, let's say 5 to 10 years ago? What would you tell them about you now that you didn't believe before?
Give up on Christ. If it's one thing I could say, well, the most important thing is that because I believe a lot of my delays in life was because that I've lost faith.
Okay.
I remember, like I told you earlier, about getting into ministry on the island. When I joined Defense Force, it did the opposite of what it did to you. When I joined Defense Force, I found myself in a backslid position.
Okay.
And that wasn't nothing like a short period of time. That was for like a couple of years. I was
Right.
just doing my own set of stuff.
Mm.
Got back into the same lifestyle, like with that college lifestyle.
Right.
True, yeah, and that affected me greatly. That's what led me to me. I personally, that's what I believe what led me into the loan too, with the accident and stuff like that. Because God had to
Hmm.
get my attention somehow. Really, really and truly. The moment I had that accident, I went back to church. I started attending church again after that.
Mm.
So I mean, I've been on a church for a couple of years. It was that bad. So if it's one thing I could tell my younger self is don't give up on Christ. One and two. Last thing, be careful, little mouth, for what you say. And why I say it like that, you can't, we sometimes limit ourselves with words. We speak over ourselves negatively and don't even
Right.
realize it. Saying that I probably ain't gonna achieve that anyhow, but that a bit difficult. One. Two, when we have plans, we go and we speak to people not knowing that person have Satan right by the ear. And now you wonder why certain plans don't establish at a certain time because you don't tell the enemy that, you know what I mean? You have that as an instance. So two, may it could be two different things because
Hmm.
that plan may not be fulfilling at that time frame due to God's time. It could be that.
Right.
But there are times when God give us the green light, and because we speak it to a certain person or people,
Hmm.
you now have a delay because now you have people working against you. And I've experienced that a lot in my life.
Okay.
Business plans and things of that sort. Or well, I plan to do this next and I want to do that next. And now when the moment you literally speak that out again, all hell breaks loose. Sometimes we do have to stay quiet.
Yes.
You know, and I listened to you earlier when you mentioned about the school thing. And you say
Yeah.
you're trying to you fanning yourself and things of that sort. I trust me. In many cases now, I sure at this age now, and especially in the organization we work in now,
Hmm.
there are times when you could still do that and be like, and there's be a voice in the back here say, you know what? It don't make sense.
It's a
In
battle
many
not worth
cases,
winning.
that is God, bro.
Yeah.
Because he don't want us to go into unnecessary warfare, unnecessary battles and things of that sort. It's one thing I mentioned in the sermon recently is that passion without restraint leads to death.
Okay.
Passion without restraint. Because sometimes we be passionate about again defending ourselves and speaking out and
To the
saying,
death.
but you have no yeah, if you have no restraint on that, buddy, you will die. That's
You'll
just
die
it.
on that hill.
And
That's
that's
what they say. You'll die on that hill.
even with fitness itself. Like if I that's another thing I could tell myself when I was younger as well. Even with the passion of getting stronger and
And
things
the
of that sort, you gotta
ambitions.
know when to restrain. You have to know when, bro, I think that's enough. I think I need to rest on this particular day. I think I need it,
There's a
things
tomorrow.
of that sort. Yeah, there's a tomorrow. Run to fight another to live another day, things of that sort.
Man,
But that first thing for certain is that don't give up on Christ.
don't give
Don't
up on Christ.
You may fall down, but just try your best to get up as fast as possible, dust off your clothes, and just continue on. Take it one day at a time.
Okay. Well, Giorgio, I appreciate this so much. This has been a great call. I personally think I'll have you again, and we have some other things to talk about because it was a good time. I think in future, if it is going to be so, we'll talk about some other things. But I do appreciate you being here, and I appreciate you taking the time out this evening to have this lovely conversation about physical health, mental health, and spiritual well-being, and how everything combines
Uh,
together in life. And you speaking on a personal level and really making yourself vulnerable. And I appreciate that.
I appreciate the opportunity being here, bro. Really and truly. It is something new for certain, but it felt like
Right at
it
home.
felt like we've been doing it for a long time, I could say that for certain.
Well, in that case, it sounds like I may have you and you may be well inclined to come here, maybe even doing it in
Yeah.
person. So, well, that'll be all. I don't know what else to say, but ladies and gentlemen, this is Giorgio. I'm King Kurt. Thank you for tuning in.